I'm Chris Kepler, and welcome to Does This Happen to You? I'm an actor, voice actor, audiobook narrator, and writer. I love telling and sharing stories about the strange experiences my friends and I have while doing mundane things like grocery shopping. That's why this podcast features funny stories from fantastic writers about our daily anomalies, a micro audiobook about life and befuddlement just for you. Our story this week is from L.K. Smith, who you'll find on Medium.com. And here is My Date Smelled Like My Dad. No one wants to make out with Daddy. Online dating is fraught with fears. Will my date look like they did in the photograph they emailed me? Will they show up for our date? And if they show up, will they be wearing an ankle tether because they are on parole for operating a meth lab? So many fears, so many dates, and so many potentially bad endings. But somewhere in the giant heap of dates is a sparkling gem that shines brighter than the North Star. You just need to find it. Unfortunately, discovering your shiny diamond usually takes some time and effort. I found Alec the way I found most of my dates, online. I compiled a profile on a dating site by answering a series of questions. I checked off that I was petite as opposed to short, curvy as opposed to chunky, no preference for religion, non-smoker, blah, blah, blah. It would have been a more accurate profile if there had been a way for me to indicate that I was indifferent about almost everything and could tolerate virtually anything, at least for a few dates, because I was bored, lonely, and desperate. I hadn't thought much about what I was looking for, but I knew what I wasn't looking for. I wasn't looking for anything long-term. I wasn't looking for a husband, and I wasn't looking for anyone who was looking for a sugar mama. I guess I was looking for a guy who was available when I needed someone to go to a social function with, or when I was bored. I needed someone who could reach objects from the top shelf and carry heavy things up the stairs. And, of course, someone who would tend to my lady needs, whatever those were and whenever they arose. I composed my dating profile for the website to the best of my ability. I said I was in my 30s, a lawyer with my own practice, and I had cats. I had found from previous experience that if I didn't mention these things up front, I ran the risk of my date running away, screaming into the night when they discovered these things during the first date. Best to get these deal breakers out of the way up front. In my experience, being a lawyer was the kiss of death. Half of the guys were intimidated by an intelligent and educated woman, and the other 49.7% of the guys online were looking for a female lawyer to pay their bills. So, that left hardly any guys in the dating pool who would be legitimately interested in me. That meant if I wanted to date, I would need to settle for whatever I could scrape from the side of the barrel, not the bottom of the barrel. Even I have my limits. But Alex seemed to be from the top of the barrel. I was shocked. He winked, waved, smiled, or whatever it was that you do online to show that you are interested in learning more about a person. From his picture, I could tell that he was a little chunky, which is the type of man I prefer. He had dark hair, was around 6 feet tall, worked in sales/marketing/management, had his own place instead of living in his parents' basement, and had his own car instead of borrowing his parents' minivan. And for the pièce de résistance, he loved cats and had two, Bambi and Choo Choo. Alec had potential. I just knew it. I was filled with hope. Let the online courtship begin. Whenever I find someone I am interested in online, I stalk them. I mean, I get to know them gradually. I use the same approach each time. First, I start by communicating with the person through the website that I met them on. Then, as I become more comfortable with them, I progress to personal email. If that goes well, I move on to texting. Then, if I feel really comfortable with the person, I give them permission to call me on the phone. For me, the first phone call is a big deal. Fortunately, my dating years took place before FaceTime and stuff like that existed, because there is no way I could have handled the stress of appearing live on camera. I am unphotogenic. It is highly unfortunate, but it is a cross I must bear. Anyway, the first phone call is an extremely stressful thing for me because I have unusual anxiety about hearing a potential date's voice for the first time. I fear the guy will have a voice that I can't stomach, and then I will have to end everything with him no matter how much I like him. It's unfortunate, but I can't get past a bad voice. What if the guy's voice sounds like Mickey Mouse? What if he sounds like this kid I went to school with who had a nasal voice, and he lisped like Sylvester the cat from Looney Tunes and spat on everyone when he spoke? What if he sounds like he has been sucking from a helium tank? And what about the voice that doesn't match the face? I can't deal with that either. It would be like Sylvester Stallone having a high-pitched voice. That doesn't work. I would have to end things. These are things I worry about. I know. I have issues. Everything had been progressing perfectly with Alec. First, we emailed through the dating site. Next, we exchanged personal emails and we wrote to each other about our goals in life, our plans for the future, and our cats. We had so much in common. Every time I saw an email from him waiting for me, my heart skipped a beat. I set up a folder on my desktop and filed away every email that I received from him. After about a week of emailing, we started texting. We exchanged witty banter. I loved how we could joke back and forth with each other. Every morning, Alec texted me first thing. It made my day. Every night he texted me before he went to sleep. It was so sweet of him to let me know that he was thinking of me. Finally, it was time for a call. My phone rang. It was Alec. I took a deep breath and answered after 2 rings. I tried to sound calm, but my voice cracked. He sounded perfect. His voice sounded like I thought it would. It matched his face. It was deep, but not too deep. It had warmth and strength. He sounded like a prince, or at least like someone strong enough to open jars with lids that won't budge. After a few days of talking on the phone, Alex suggested that we go on a date. So, of course, I accepted his invitation. I couldn't wait. We were both so excited to meet in person that we set the date for the next day. I had a busy day planned, but going out to dinner with someone I enjoyed speaking with so much would be a great way to end the day and relax. I suggested that he meet me at my office at 6 p.m. It was important to meet in a public place. Safety first. I would have time after my last appointment of the day to freshen up, and then we would be off to dinner. We decided on Italian, to be followed by who knows what. When my final appointment of the day was over, I had 25 minutes to freshen up before Alec arrived. It sounds like a lot of time, but I needed to change and touch up what was left of the makeup that I applied 12 hours earlier. Not a simple task, especially while under pressure. And of course, I forgot to bring extra deodorant. I didn't think I smelled, but I heard that you couldn't detect your own stench sometimes, so I might have been stinky and oblivious to it. I was concerned. I was finally ready and in record time. I looked fabulous. This was going to be an excellent date. I knew it. From my office, I could hear the entrance door open. It was Alec. I started to walk toward the waiting area, and then it hit me. What was that smell? I knew it wasn't me. It was Alec, and he smelled like my dad. I grew up on a farm. No animals, just crops. My dad worked full-time in a factory and also farmed in an attempt to earn extra money. It never worked. Our crops always died or flooded or were diseased. It was always something. Our equipment was always broken down. My dad's spare time always seemed to be spent trying to fix a tractor. He would come in the house after another fruitless attempt to make the green tractor run like a deer, with his hands and arms covered in grease past his elbows. My mom would immediately send him to the wash basin in the laundry room and hand him the giant bar of pumice soap. My dad wasn't allowed back in the house until he scrubbed every bit of grease off his arms with the pumice soap. If that meant that his skin came off with the grease, then so be it. My mom had zero tolerance for grease stains. I hated the smell of that damn pumice soap. It made me sick to my stomach. The scent just didn't agree with me, and I knew I would be forced to smell that stench every time my dad had to fix a tractor, and that was way too often as far as I was concerned. As an adult, I thought I had escaped that horrible smell of soap with the red label and the picture of a volcano on it. I was wrong. Unfortunately, my date liked to lather up with it. Alec was a pumice soap fan. Throughout dinner, as the freshly pumice smell of Alec wafted in the air, I thought I was going to erupt like a volcano all over the table as I tried my best to eat my fettuccine alfredo, endless iceberg lettuce salad, and stale breadsticks. I did my best to be my perky self. I kept reminding myself how much Alec and I had been clicking while we emailed, texted, and talked, but all I could do was smell the pumice. And besides making me nauseous, the pumice reminded me of my dad. My dad was a wonderful man, but I would never want to date my dad. I mean, that's just wrong. No one wants to make out with Daddy. I just couldn't be myself. We struggled through dinner to make conversation. It was painful. When the waitress asked if we would like dessert, I said I would like a piece of cheesecake to go. I felt so bad, but I couldn't take Alec's smell any longer. I had to put our date out of its misery and bring it to a humane end. It was cheesecake-assisted euthanasia. As Alec drove us back to my office and the smell of pumice soap filled his car, I cracked the window open and reflected on how what I expected to be a perfect date had gone wrong. All I could think about was how Alec had passed the voice test, but he failed the sniff test. I never anticipated that I should be anxious about the smell of my date. I would add that to the list of things to worry about before meeting all future dates. When we arrived at my office, I thanked Alec for dinner, quickly exited the car with my cheesecake, and firmly closed the car door. Then I hurried into the building, let myself into my office, and closed the door. I sat down at my desk, opened up the styrofoam box, and let the cheesecake melt in my mouth. To this day, I feel bad about my date with Alec. He must have wondered what happened and why I was such a dud on our date. He was a great guy, but sometimes you can't escape your past. That day, I couldn't overcome my issues, and I still think about how I would handle things differently 20 years later. If faced with the same situation today, I would start laughing and be honest with him. I would tell Alec that the soap he uses reminds me of my dad, and I can't see myself getting frisky with my dad. I would leave out the part about how the smell nauseates me. Hopefully he would laugh. Who knows? Maybe he could have switched to Irish Spring, and we would still be together today. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the story, let me know and share it with your friends. Follow me at Chris KK Aria on Twitter or Chris K. Kepler on Facebook, or check out my website, www.chriskepler.com.